I'd spent 37 years building an empire and exactly 0 minutes understanding the people who cleaned it. That changed on a Tuesday. Her name was Rosa. I only knew that because it was stitched on her uniform. She moved like clockwork, quiet, efficient, invisible. I'd seen her wipe blood off the marble floor after a charity gala fight broke out and keep folding napkins like nothing happened. She was good. Too good. I didn't notice her until I overheard a conversation she thought I was too far away to hear. "Mi hijo no puede esperar el trasplante para siempre." My Spanish is rusty, but I understood enough. Her son was dying. That shouldn't have mattered to me. But it did. That same night, I sat in my penthouse office with the skyline stretching behind me, champagne on my desk, and silence pressing into my skull like a vice. The deal had closed. The billion-dollar merger was mine. I should have been ecstatic. But all I could see in my head was Rosa scrubbing the floor on her knees with a phone tucked between her cheek and shoulder, begging someone for time. Time she didn't have. So I made a decision I wouldn't have dared 10 years ago. I followed her. Not in the obvious way, I have people for that. I had the security team pull her shift records. I waited until her Friday shift ended at 5:03 p.m., then slipped into the back seat of my anonymous black car, dressed like I hadn't dressed since college, hoodie, jeans, sneakers. I told no one. She didn't take a bus. She walked past the corporate glass towers and neon restaurants I owned shares in, down side streets and alleys I'd paid lawyers to make disappear in zoning meetings. She moved with purpose but no urgency, as if every step cost her something. We followed her for 17 blocks. Then she disappeared. One moment she was ahead of us. The next gone. My driver panicked. "Did she get into a car?" I asked. "No, sir. She just turned the corner and didn't come out." I jumped out and ran after her, something I hadn't done in years. My lungs burned. My knee popped. I didn't care. Then I saw it. The door. Unmarked. Metal. Tucked between two dumpsters. She had vanished into it. I waited. 3 minutes. 5. Then I pulled it open and stepped inside. It wasn't what I expected. Not a home. Not a shelter. Not a clinic. Or a church. No pews. No crosses. Just candles. Hundreds, maybe thousands. The air smelled like wax, sweat, and something deeper, grief. Rosa stood at the front. Her hands weren't folded in prayer. They were pressing against the chest of a man who was convulsing. Around them stood others. Men. Women. Children. All silent. Watching. No one stopped her. Then the man stopped shaking. He stood. Walked. Left. Everyone else bowed their heads in unison. Except Rosa. She looked straight at me. Like she had expected me to come. And then she smiled. Not kindly. Knowingly. I froze at the door. The others didn't even turn around. Only Rosa, still calm. Like she'd been expecting me. Her smile wasn't cruel, but it carried a kind of quiet power, like she knew something I didn't like she'd always known. I backed out of the room, hand trembling as I pulled the metal door shut behind me. My driver looked up from the car, puzzled. I waved him off. "Drive," I said. "Anywhere." We cruised through streets I used to own, or thought I did. That night, the city felt different, less like mine, more like something borrowed, something I never really understood. Back at my penthouse, I poured a drink and sat by the window, staring at my reflection in the glass. Who was she? The next morning, Rosa returned to work like nothing had happened. Same uniform. Same routine. She dusted the glass sculptures in my lobby, wiped down the marble banisters, watered the orchids. No eye contact, no words, but I saw her glance once, the smallest shift of her eyes toward mine. And then back down. A dare. That night, I went back. The metal door was locked. I knocked. No answer. I waited. Still nothing. Then from the alley behind me, a voice, "You shouldn't come here uninvited." I turned. It was the man from the night before, the one who'd convulsed. Except now he stood straight, tall, eyes glowing, not literally, but in a way that made me feel like he could see through me. "She doesn't owe you anything," he said. "I never said she did." "You think money can buy understanding," he said, walking past me. "But money is the reason you can't understand." He disappeared around the corner. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I pulled everything I could find on Rosa: HR records, background checks, immigration files. I expected anything that could explain what I'd seen. But the deeper I dug, the stranger it became. Her documents were perfectly clean, too clean. No gaps, no flags, no red marks. Every form was textbook, every address neatly filed. Except none of them existed anymore. Old buildings, burned out blocks. One of them had been demolished 6 years ago. That's when I hired Marcus, a private investigator who used to do black bag work for politicians. If something was hidden, Marcus could find it. But even he came up dry. "She's a ghost," he said. "Whatever name she gave you, that's not her first. Not her real one." He handed me an old photo. Found this in an archived case from '97, faith healing cult out of Juarez. They said a girl was born with light in her hands. People came from all over. One of them was a DEA agent undercover. The girl cured his daughter's seizures. I stared at the photo. It was Rosa. Same face, same eyes, but younger. Barefoot. Smiling. I asked him how it ended. He looked me dead in the eyes. Everyone who went there disappeared. The town burned. No survivors. That night, Rosa wasn't at work. I asked her supervisor. "She took leave," he said. Didn't say why. I felt a panic I couldn't explain. Like the floor beneath me had cracked open. That evening, I sat in the car outside the metal door again. I knocked once, twice. No answer. But when I turned to leave, I found something slipped beneath my windshield wiper. A folded note. No envelope. Just 4 words. "You saw too much." I stared at the note on my windshield for a long time. "You saw too much." No name, no threat, just that line, written in the kind of ink that bleeds when you sweat. I didn't tell anyone. Not my board, not my security chief, not even Marcus. Instead, I took a walk through my own house. 43 rooms, polished marble, original art, smart glass, silence. But none of it felt owned. Not anymore. Every corner I passed reminded me of Rosa, how invisible she'd made herself. How I'd walked by her 100 times and never really looked. Until now. At 3:11 a.m., I opened the last unopened file Marcus had sent me. A small PDF titled Incident, Hospital X. No location, no case number. Inside was a scanned report from a now defunct rural clinic. The report described a woman, Hispanic, early 30s, walking into the emergency room with a child who'd been declared brain dead from an accident. Multiple witnesses described the woman placing her hand over the child's chest, whispering, then walking out before anyone could stop her. The child woke up 32 minutes later. But here's the part that made my stomach freeze. The name of the woman in the report? Rosa Alvarez. The timestamp? 2 years before she appeared in my building. I called Marcus. He didn't pick up. The next morning, I found out why. He was dead. Collapsed in his apartment. Official report said heart attack. But his phone, the one he used only for work, was gone. So was his laptop. And someone had accessed the surveillance footage from my building's security server remotely at 2:59 a.m., 2 minutes before I opened the file. My hands shook. Was this her? Was it someone protecting her? Or was she something else entirely? That night, I returned to the metal door. I didn't knock. I kicked it open. The candles were still there, still burning. But no one was inside. No Rosa, no people, no murmurs, only the smell of wax and rust. And then I saw the wall. One I hadn't noticed before. It was covered in photos. Old, new, black and white, color, children, adults, all with one thing in common. Their eyes had been scratched out. Except for mine. In the center of the collage was a freshly added photo of me standing outside my building, coffee in hand, that same morning. My face untouched. My eyes clear. Like I hadn't disappointed her yet. I ran. Back to the car. Back to the penthouse. Everything was normal. But I felt watched. The following days were a blur. I stopped taking meetings. My assistant told people I was sick. I let her believe it. But I wasn't sick. I was haunted. Every screen in my home glitched once per day, always at 2:59 a.m. Once, the lights in my hallway spelled something in shadows. See her. I couldn't run from it. So I stopped trying. Instead, I drove to the only place that felt real anymore. The hospital. I needed to see if any of it was true. I found the records. The child Rosa had saved, his name was Miguel Santos. He was alive. 12 now, perfect health. But his mother had vanished. Disappeared 2 years ago. Authorities listed her as presumed dead, last seen walking into the desert. I tracked down Miguel. His foster mother told me he barely spoke. But when he saw me, something changed. He walked over, took my hand, and whispered one word. Next. The boy's voice was like a match striking in a dark room. Next, he whispered again, squeezing my hand. What do you mean? I asked. He didn't repeat it. Just let go and walked away, back into the house, as if he hadn't just lit a fuse in my mind. I drove aimlessly after that, thoughts spiraling. Next? What the hell did that mean? Was I next to be healed? Or next to vanish? Back in my penthouse, the silence was unbearable. Even the skyline outside looked different, colder, further away. I poured myself a drink and sat in front of the mirror. I looked tired, but not just tired, faded. Like the man I had built over 40 years was cracking, piece by piece. And then I heard it. A knock at the door. 3 sharp taps. I froze. Another knock. Slower this time. I walked to the front door, heart pounding. Opened it. No one. Just a single envelope on the floor. No stamp. No name. I picked it up. Inside a photo. Rosa, younger, smiling, holding a child that looked eerily like Miguel. Behind them stood me, but younger. A version of me I had almost forgotten, hair longer, face leaner, standing on a balcony in Costa Rica, 1996. I dropped the photo. That trip, I remembered it now. I had flown down to inspect a resort I was planning to demolish for development. I remembered the town, the people protesting, the child who got hurt during a scuffle, and the woman who stepped into the chaos and laid her hand on him. She had calmed the entire crowd with a single look. I had seen her before. And forgotten. Or maybe I had been made to forget. I looked back down at the photo. Scrawled in ink on the back. She remembers everything. You chose to forget. My hands began to shake. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One-word text. Basement. I didn't have a basement. But my building did. Sub-level 3, used for archives and old mechanical access no one had touched in years. I took the elevator down, alone. When the doors opened, the lights flickered. It smelled of mildew and rusted copper. I walked through the corridor, every step echoing louder than it should have. Then I saw it. Another metal door, unmarked. I pushed it open. And there she was, Rosa, sitting alone in a folding chair under a single hanging bulb. She didn't look up, just said, "You finally came." "I don't understand," I said. "Who are you?" Her eyes met mine. "Who do you need me to be? What do you want from me?" "Truth," she said. I laughed bitterly. "Truth? That's it?" "No," she whispered. "Your truth?" And then the bulb above her flickered once and the room around us changed. No longer a basement. Now a field. Wide, golden, stretching beyond the eye. And I was no longer wearing my clothes. I was 12 again, standing in front of a pond. And my brother Michael was in the water, calling for help, drowning. And I didn't move. I froze, just like I had 35 years ago, just like I'd spent my whole life pretending I hadn't. Rosa's voice cut through the scene. "You forgot this." I fell to my knees, sobbing. "No," I whispered. "No, I buried this. I buried it." "But it never buried you," she said gently. And the field vanished. We were back in the basement. She stood, touched my face. "You can't heal what you refuse to face." I couldn't speak. She walked past me toward the elevator. Stopped once. "Tomorrow," she said, without turning, "you choose." The elevator closed behind her. And I was alone again. The silence in the basement didn't feel empty anymore. It felt watchful, as if the walls themselves waited for my answer to her final words. "Tomorrow you choose." But choose what? The next morning came with a strange calm. My assistant told me Rosa had submitted her resignation overnight. No explanation. No forwarding address. Just a single note on her locker. "He knows now." By noon I was back at my desk, the skyline stretching before me again. But the view didn't feel powerful anymore. It felt like a cage. I called off meetings, canceled a deal I'd been working on for 6 months. For the first time in decades, I didn't feel the need to control something. Instead, I opened my inbox and searched for the folder I had buried 5 years ago. HR, red flag terminations, hundreds of names. People we'd fired without fair review, most for small mistakes. Some for nothing at all, just bad timing, bad luck, or bad birth certificates. I spent the day reading every name, every case. I made a list. By 9 p.m., I had 37 people to call. And I started with the first one. Her name was Mariah. She cried when she picked up, told me no one had ever apologized to her for anything. I told her I didn't want her forgiveness. I wanted her truth. She gave it. The next day, I reopened the community center project my board had scrapped last year. This time, I didn't just fund it, I worked there. Scrubbing, lifting, painting. A billionaire in overalls. Some laughed. Some stared. One old man clapped me on the back and said, "Took you long enough." But every night, I returned home still waiting. For her. For Rosa. I didn't know what I'd say. I just needed her to see me trying. Weeks passed. Then one evening, as I walked out of the center, I saw a candle burning across the street. Just one. By the alley. The same alley. And next to it a child's handprint in wax on the pavement. Miguel's. I walked to it. Kneeled. And found another photo. This time not of her. Or of me. Smiling. Not at a gala. Not at a podium. But on a bench, handing soup to a homeless man. It wasn't staged. Someone had captured it from the shadows. On the back, scribbled in soft ink. Now you see. I don't know if I'll ever see her again. I don't know if Rosa was human, angel, myth, or a storm wearing a maid's uniform. All I know is this. She opened a door I didn't know existed. And I walked through. And behind it was me. The real one. For the first time in my life, I'm not rich. I'm awake.